Hey there everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now this video is specially designed for the YouTube because from the last iOS movie I got a huge response, various number of views, and I'm happy with that. So today this bearded guy is going to talk about the core data in the iOS development. Now I can understand core data has changed quite a lot and a lot of experienced users are even looking up into the documentation to figure out the things. And yes, it is really that much awkward out there. But the good news is that things have become much more great with the core data. Now the new programmers will be much more happier that the core data is so simple out there. It's really easy. I couldn't imagine this type of core data codes that I might have written previously out there. So things are really easy. Let's tackle that down. So what we are going to do now, again, we are going to be building a to-do app. This time it's going to use a core data feature. Now the to-do apps nowadays is kind of a hello world in the previous days of programming, because things are now a little bit complicated, like Angular or maybe iOS or Android. You don't get full idea about the application until you do a to-do app. You get barely an idea about the hello world things out there. Yes, we could have done a core data hello world, but it will not give you much things out there. So it's a good idea to have a core data app, kind of a to-do app. You will look around a couple of more features as well. So this is going to be a long movie, not much long, but you can notice down how much time it is out there. I have no idea how much longer this movie is going to be. So let's create file, new, and a project. So we need a new project. Let me shift this guy onto the recording screen. It's going to be a single view application, obviously. Next, and what we should do, let's call this as core to-do. Okay, to-do is good, but I'll go with the to-do. And rest of the things is going to remain same. Make sure that you check mark the use core data, and let's just place it anywhere. It doesn't really matter. This is kind of a demo project. Okay, and it's doing a lot of things, waiting to repair. Please do so. I would like you to run on iPhone 7 actually. Let's not go into the debate of that, but you can use any device, no problem in that. So here's our main storyboard. Let's get a little bit of the room. I'm already short of the room, but I think this is good. And this looks okay-ish. This is my view controller. This is having a view controller Swift file as well, no big deal. Now, first of all, let's create a navigation controller. So editor, and make sure that this guy is selected out there. Click on the view controller. Then go to the editor, embed in a navigation view controller. Now, a lot of programmers might be saying, why you always do that? You could have dragged a new navigation controller, could have dragged and drop here, and could have clicked on a couple of segues. This is far more efficient. It does the job, and it's much more efficient. It's my personal hobby. So view controller is good. Now select this view controller. I don't like this space, so I always just adjust scroll view inserts. Just uncheck that. This is bad. And looks good. Let's just select this into a background color of, let's choose a background color, maybe a little bit like that. This will look good. Okay. And I would like to run you. We haven't done anything, but it's a good idea to just run the app and see that white screen out there. It's good. You know, it might be running somewhere. So let me just grab this guy. And there we go. This grayish actually looks good. I'll make that a note. Okay, so what we should do, first of all, we need a table view. So we'll be just presenting everything into the table. Where is the table view? This is the table view. And in the previous movie, we have also seen how the table view goes on. Just select the table view and pin it from everywhere without the constraint. So it's going to be 0, 0, 0, and 0. Add 4 constraints, and then we are going to update the frames. There we go. Table view is done. Pretty simple. Now we need one more screen. So let's just get one more screen. View controller. And I would like to add a top button out there that says plus, and when you tap on that button, you will be taken down onto a new screen where you can add your task and a label that says is it important or not, and then just a button that says add the task. Pretty simple. Yes, it is. So now one tip to all of you, whenever you create a new controller, make sure that you immediately create a new file for that CocoaTouch class file. It's a good habit. Otherwise, you'll be just trying to link your data to the just view controller. It will not make sense. There is a huge chance of making things go into a mess just like that. So create file new, and we're going to create a new file. It's going to be CocoaTouch class next, and it's going to be, let's just call this add task VC or view controller. Make sure that it's a subclass of UI view controller. Language is Swift. Next, and yes, please create it for me. And there are a lot of functions out there. We don't need overrides. We don't need these comments. Let's just get rid of them and save that. Main storyboard, select this view controller, go to this newspaper or identity inspector. And this is gonna be a task. No, its name is add task. So add task view controller. Now this view controller is gonna expect the code to be in the add task view controller. Now, although we are not following the model view controller things out there much, but still I would like to group the things all together. So that is why. Okay, looks good. Now let's just select this identity inspector. I would like to play around with the color. I think this is good. This is good. Let's just add a label out there. Let's just first of all add a bar button item. So let's just search for the but, and we're gonna get a bar button item. Place it out there, not just the button, the bar button item, you're looking for that. And it's gonna say add. Okay, looks good. Now hold down your control key, click and drag from the button to this, and click on the show. So there we go, we have added a segue. Save that. I think we should run the app now. It would be a good idea to run the app. Why not, actually? Da-da-da-da, where is our app? There it is. Looks good. The table view is looking good. Let's just click on the add, and there we go. New segue. Looks good. So let's just stop that. And we are making a good progress. I believe that. Okay, let's just add a label. So let's just call the label. You can add more functions out there. I just want to stick with simplicity out there. And in fact, label would not be a good idea. Let's just have a text box. So a text field would be good. So text field. And let's just say this is gonna be maybe 40 and 40 from left and right. Add two constraints and make that horizontal in the container. And we would like it to be fixed from the top, maybe 20. How about that? Add one constraints, and I think it looks good. Let's just update the frames. Yep, it looks good. And since I've given the 2 from the sides, it's gonna stick to that in the landscape view as well. It's gonna look good, believe me. And let's just give it a placeholder text as well. So it's gonna say enter your, did something? No. Enter your task, and there we go. Looks good. I think this will look good in the center. Now we need a switch to make sure that is it important or not. So let's just get a switch out there, maybe somewhere here. Now control and drag this guy from here to here. We need, press down your shift key, of course, vertical spacing, center horizontal, and add these constraints. Looks good. Now we need a button as well. So do search for the but again. So let's just search for the but, and there we go, our button. Okay, there we go. Doesn't really look good in blue, so we'll make it white. Looks good. Now the button is gonna say add task. So there we go. We're doing pretty good. Let's just make it a little bit bigger. I think this will look good. And can I make it bold or not? I think this will just work like that. So press your control key and let's just drag and drop it here. Yes, we need vertical spacing and we need center horizontal, add constraints. And let's just update the frames. There we go. There is one of the most beautiful app in the entire Apple Store. I know, that's not true. What's in saying so? Where is our app? There we go. Click that. Looks good. Pretty decent to me. There we go. Add task. Let's just stop that. Okay, so now this is good. Now it's time to talk between you and me. So let's just get that. So what we want to do next is a kind of a data modeling. Now, in this case, it's pretty simple, but you need to spend a little time on the data modeling, how you want your data to be gone out there or going out from there. So what we want in this case, we need, of course, a core data. So our database is going to be called as task maybe. And then we need a couple of things out there, like for example, what is our task, the name of the task, and is it important or not. So here the data model is pretty simple, pretty obvious, but you should spend a little time on that. So let's just do that. So first of all, I would like to, how did this happen? Okay, I have no idea. So let's just get there. Now, first of all, let's go into the core data. This is the file which is automatically being created, and you might want to click on that. Now, let's add an entity out there. Now, in the iOS 10, especially with the Xcode 8, things are much more simpler now. Now, you can just assume that your entire database is like a class. That's it. And let's add an entity out there. So let's add an entity, double click to rename that. I'll call that as task. Now, if you're not going to make the task, the first letter of the task, the T, as caps, it's going to pop it up like, hey, what are you doing? Come on, make it a caps first. So that's you need to do. Now let's add first attribute out there. Attributes are like objects in the classes. So this is going to be name, and it's going to be of type string. It's good. And let's add one more. And this time I'm going to check is it important or not. So I'll call it as is important. Now, most of my variable, important, okay, is important. Now, when I make these classes out there, or the Boolean especially, I like to name them with is important, is true, is login, is not login, like that. So this is for personally for me, that helps me to just make sure that the values are true Boolean. Personal preference, you know. So Boolean would be good. Okay. Now a couple of more things. Now notice down here it says optional. Now from the database you're going to get a value optional. You can uncheck that to save a little bit time because we are pretty sure we are going to write the code based on the value is optional or not. So it's completely to us. Okay, so we have unchecked these two, and I think we are done with the core data. It's pretty simple now. And one more thing, now select this task and make sure that you produce a code gen of class definition. This is going to be responsible for converting your entire entity relationship and everything into the almost like classes, and you can work pretty easily on them. So make sure that you do that. The code gen is really important. Okay, what next? What next we can do? We can handle the view controller, and we can handle the task view controller as well, or add task. I would like to handle the add task first of all, because it's kind of a flow out there. If I'm not going to enter any kind of task, it's not going to pop up on the view controller. So it's a good idea to tackle the add task first. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the task, we're going to take the is important thing, and simply just we'll be passing them into the database and saving the database, of course. So it's pretty simple, pretty obvious. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. Okay, I might make a couple of mistakes because this is on the go recording, but it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun, believe me. So first of all, this label, and we are gonna call this as a text field maybe. So let's call this as, oops, did something make Command Z, please. Yep, and this looks good. Why it's making a mess? Okay, looks good. And let's just control and drag this. Yep, this time it's good. So add task, and we are gonna call this as text field. So text field, connect that. And we need one more, that is gonna be the switch. So it's gonna be a simple switch, is important switch. So control and drag this guy, and let's call it as is imp for is important. I know I'm not good in naming, but please excuse me for that. And let's just go. There's no update frames out there. I would like to update the frames here. Why is it making it? Okay. Update frames. Looks good now. So control and drag this, add task, and there we go. This time it's going to be an action, and it's going to be called as button, tabbed or pressed, whatever you like to call this. I'd like to call it as tabbed. Anything. Okay. I think the connections are done, and I think it's good. So let's just go here, go on to the general view. I think everyone can see that. Let me make a little bit room out there. Okay, so now the strategy, it's going to be pretty simple. Now, first of all, when you want to interact with the database, you have to create a context. Now, this context is going to take your data to the database, or is going to fetch the data from the database to your views, or going to save that, delete that, pretty much CRUD stuff. So let's go on to the app delegate file and show you some of the stuff out there. So this is the core data stuff, the core data stack. And the good news is this persistent container. Now, in the previous days, just kind of a reminder, in the previous days, it used to be a couple of tasks that you have to do in the iOS. But from the iOS 10, the things have changed, especially in the Xcode 8, that the persistent container is going to be the only object which is going to perform a couple of tasks for you. I'm not going to go in depth of that task because it's completely irrelevant now. And we just have to create a delegate that is going to be passing. I know this is really weird stuff I'm talking here. Let's go and do that. It's much more easier to explain the things on the go. So let's just create, first of all, it's a little tricky to create that context. So let me just do that for you and we'll understand things. So first of all, first of all, I need to build the application because the core data that I have done here is not updated. And without the suggestion, you cannot code in core data, or maybe in entire iOS, you cannot code. So it's going to be a UI application. Now this is going to have a shared property out there. And then you have to say, we are making you a delegate. So delegate. And we have to pass it as an exclamation, as a simple app delegate. So app delegate. Okay, so this is my entire object, and this object is going to access the property here, which is this persistent container. Okay, so let's just do that. But we have to do one more thing. We have to wrap this entire thing into the pair of parentheses. There we go. Now for this entire thing, we're going to say access the persistent container, and inside that there is a view context. I know this is a lot of stuff, but believe me, this is the one line which you always have to write when you're working with the core data. Without even thinking, just always write that in the entire iOS 10. Just write that always. Okay. Since we'll be using that quite a lot, let's make it a context and let context equals and this line. So it's always going to be with us. Okay. That's one thing. It's going to give us an error that, hey, you are not using it. Just replace it with an underscore. Let's not worry about that. Okay. So now it's good. Now let's create a task, okay, which is going to be of type of core data context entity, or in short, you can say classes as well, kind of classes. So let's just call this as task. And I'm writing the task in capital because I'm referring to that entity in the core data. Now open a pair of parentheses. And I'm looking for this context, which says ANIS managed object context, not the upper one. This is guy. Okay. And I'm going to say context. There we go. Now this is the type context. This is my variable that I have declared, or the constant that I have declared here. So, okay. So now we have an object which is referencing to the entity out there. Obviously, this entity is going to have two things, the name and the is important, that the property that we have declared. So let's just call this as task dot, and you can say is important and name is out there. Okay. So name is going to be there, and the name is going to be being filled by the text box that we have created. So let's just call this as text field. What I have written here, the text field dot text. Now there is a problem. We haven't checked the if let statement out there. I don't want to go into the optional chaining right now. I have created one more video for that. That is in the playlist in the YouTube. You can watch out that. I know this is a bad way of doing the things, but bear with me. The video is already going 20 minutes and it's going to take 30-40 minutes maybe. So bear with me, guys. This is a long video. Okay, but in the boot camps or in the video courses that I do, I make short videos and I split them into various chunks. But sometimes I think these long videos are appreciated by a couple of people. So task dot is important is going to be filled by the state of the switch, which is important dot is on. So it's saying, is it on, then true or false? How the typical Boolean stuff goes on. And this is good. This is good. Now, all these things are happening when the button is being tabbed. Make sure that you remember that. Okay. Now it's time to simply save the data. To save the data, it's really simple now. So what you have to do, just copy this entire thing where you have accessed the persistent container till the entire pair of parentheses. And this is now save the data to core data. I'm not trying to sing, but bear with me. And you have to say simply dot save context. There you go. You have saved everything into the database. It's pretty good. Now I want simply that when somebody add the data, he should be popped back directly into the table view. So we can just pop the navigation controller. So let's just call this navigation controller dot pop view controller, and it's gonna be true. I'm pretty sure there is something to pop, so there we go, exclamation. Save that. Looks good. It's a good idea to run that things. Let's just run that. And it's running. Okay, do something. Okay, here we go. Let's just write something, and let's just say testing me. It doesn't really make sense. So add the task. We got popped back. We got something into the database, but we haven't actually printed that out, so no big deal. Okay, so I think this stuff is done. Now I know I have done a couple of mistakes. I'm not gonna rant about that again and again. I haven't checked whether the text box is filled or empty. I could have actually grayed out the button until somebody writes something into that, or could have done if let check. But again, I'm missing out that point deliberately because it's gonna make things a little bit longer. Okay, there we go. Let's just get rid of this to see did receive memory warnings and things like that. So let's go onto the main storyboard. Now we haven't connected the things, so let's just connect them. And let's just select this view controller, split the screen. Make sure that it says view, it doesn't really say add task view controller. It should say view controller. Okay, there we go, looks good. Now first of all, I have to add a reference from the table view. So control and drag this guy, and let's just call this as table view. And that's it. We need only just a reference from the table view so that we can reference it later on. So let's just click on the view controller, go into the general settings, looks good. Okay, now let's do the usual ritual stuff. So table view dot data source is gonna be self, and table view dot delegate is also gonna be self, so that later on we can reference that, and for sure we are gonna reference that in this movie. Now let's add the two protocols out there. So it's gonna be UI table view data source, data source, and comma UI table view delegate. So there we go. It's gonna rant about the two functions that you haven't added yet, so let's just add them. So what are those two functions? The one is called as number of rows in section. This is the one. And the second one is cell for row at. So let's just call this cell for row at. In fact, I would like to add that at the top. So it really makes sense, but it is not going to bother much about the code. So cell for row at, this is the one. Okay. So we can just place them anywhere, but what should I do? Okay, now I think this guy should go on the top, but again, it doesn't really matter much. The first thing that I would like to tell it is how many rows you want to have that. So for that, let's create a new array. So let's just call this as tasks. This is going to be our array, and let's just make them, I'm pretty sure it's going to be an array of type task, which is our entity, and it's going to be empty at first. Okay, makes sense. And make sure you declare it outside the view.load because we want it to be accessible by everyone. So let's just call this as return tasks dot count. Makes sense. Okay, let's just add a couple of room here. Okay, now let's do one thing. So let's cell is gonna be equal to UI table view cell. Okay, and let's just return this cell. Okay, things are good now. Okay, so what we have to do now, it's gonna be simple. We want to fetch the data from the database or the core data to the table view. That's it. So let's just do that. How we can do that? Okay, first of all, this is important. Okay, so how we can tackle that? Okay, let's go here and try to do that here. So let's create a new object out there. So let's just call this as let task. This is declared inside the table view function, so it's unique. So let task is equal to the tasks, and in that task I'm gonna call indexPath.row, so I know which row you are talking about. Okay, that's one thing. Now since I have pointed out that particular object from with the use of this task, I can actually access them. So I can simply say that my cell dot text label. Okay, you're not suggesting me the text label, and why is that? Okay, it's not doing that, so let me just build that. Okay, so let's just call this at cell dot text. Okay, it's not suggesting me because I have made a mistake here. I haven't actually added these parentheses. So command B, build that again. Okay, now it's gonna suggest me the things, so let's just try that. So cell dot text label dot text. Now this text is gonna be equal to the name, that is the entity or the attribute in the entity of the database. So let's just call this as task dot name. Okay, this is good. And what about the is important? We will handle that maybe then. And I would like to add an exclamation out there as well, because I'm pretty sure it is there. It is there. Okay, so let's just save that. It's not going to pop anything on the screen yet because it's not done. Now, what we want to do, now let me just run this app for a minute because I think something is going wrong. Or maybe right. Let's just, things will show up in a moment. So let's go there. Core data, where are you? There you are. Let's just add the things, and we have added previously one as well, which is not showing up in that because we haven't fetched anything from the database yet. So let's just call this as test2, add the task, nothing happens as expected. So we need to actually fetch the data from the database. So let's make a new function for that. Let's call this as simply the get data. So let's just do that. I like to do it here. So let's just call this function get data. No, get data, not fata, come on, get data. And it's not going to return anything. It's going to just fetch the data. There we go. Let me scroll it a bit on the top. Okay, what it's going to do, first of all, we'll create a context. Now it's always a good idea at the initial days to just write these lines. I could have just gone and copy that from the add task view controller.swift, but I'll write it just for you. So how do we do that? Come on, repeat it with me. So it's going to be UI application, and what you have to make it as shared. Yes. Oops, not that. Shared, and make it a delegate. Okay. And now let's just typecast that as app delegate. App delegate. Now wrap that into the pair of parentheses. And then you have to use dot persistent container and dot view context. See, you remember that now. And let's make that as a context. So let context is equals to this guy. Looks good. Looks good. Okay. Now, how do we get the data? Now, getting the data is pretty simple. You just have to pop or just fill that task array that we have created on the top and just fetch it from the database. So it's really simple. So let's just call this as the tasks, and let's just fill that up with that. How do we do that? So we simply say context dot fetch, and we have to simply say task this guy because we are mentioning that particular entity. There can be many as well, and you have to simply say dot fetch request. There we go. It's going to pop an error in a minute. There we go. Now, why is that error? because when you do these things, it expects you to wrap that up into do try catch block out there. So no big deal. So let's just try that. So how we can try that? I'll just write a try here and then just wrap everything into a do catch block, the simple stuff. And there we go, and wrap that up. Did I did it right? Nope. There we go. And thereafter you have to write catch, and there we go. We're gonna write a line in the catch block as well, simply saying print fetching failed. Okay, for some reason maybe. Okay, so this is good. Now we have actually fetched the data, but we want the data to be appeared as soon as the table view appears out there, and there's a good function built in out there. I would like to do that in the just below the view did load, and it simply says view will appear. So let's just call this view will appear. There we go. And here I want to do two things. Okay, so there we go. Now the first thing that I want to do is simply to bring the data and just reload the things. So the first thing is get the data from coredata, and the second thing is reload the table view. Okay, looks good. So how do we get the data? Obviously we have created a function for that. So get data is the function, it's being called. How do we reload the data? It's pretty simple. We can use the table view reference that we have created, and we can simply say reload data. Pretty simple stuff, Okay. I think it's a good idea or good time to run the app. Let's just try that. And you know how simple it is nowadays to just work out with the core data. It's pretty simple, obvious. Okay, it's running. Somewhere it is. Here it is. So we can see testing me and testing 2 is there now because it's in the core data. Let's add that and let's call this as test 3, and let's just add this, and there we go. It popped up because when the view actually appears, it just runs the two things, the get data and the reload function as well. Now don't just change them, because first it's going to load the view and then get the data. It's not going to work. Everything has to be in the procedure out there. Looks good. Okay, now let's just try something for this important as well. We have actually missed that. So it can be really simple. So let's just see, let's add a smiley out there. So if the task is important, so what can I do? Okay, so let's just see that if task dot is important, then what I can do, and in the else case, else I can just have this and have this here. And in fact, this line we can copy this, no big deal. And if the task is important, then let's just wrap this into this guy and this guy. Obviously we have to make them into a string because we are doing this guy. Okay, let's just add a smiley out there. So it's gonna be control command space, and what we can do, we can add some smiley out there. I do love the smileys actually. So let's just say we want to add there are a lot of choices. This guy, so that says that yes, it's important, you have to do it very first. And there we go. Let's save and let's just run the app. We haven't done much change out there, but it's a good idea to run your app randomly here and there. So there we go. Everything is important. Testing. Let's add one thing that is not important. So let's just call this as test 4, not important, add task. There we go, it's working. Now what I want to do is I want to add the swipe to delete the functionality. Right now it's not having that and I'm feeling bad about it. So let's just do that. Now here we are gonna have a commit editing style. There we go, this is one I'm looking for. And we have to do a couple of things while deleting. Okay, so let's just do that. First of all, I would like to make a context. Now this time I'm not going to write that. I'm going to simply copy this and add a context here. Now why we cannot use the upper context? Yes, you are right, because it is defined inside a function, and that's why you cannot use that context. Okay, so you do have a context. That is good. Now let's just say if editing style is actually equal to dot delete, then only we want to run this code. What we want to do? Okay, so let's just say we want to have a task variable, and a let task is equal to, it's going to be simply having tasks. I actually want to point or want to get somehow the reference of that row on which the swipe to delete is being activated. So it's a good idea to just declare a new variable, and we do have some guy who can do that, who can pass on the reference, and that is, you know, that index path. And we have got that. Of course, we need to write row. There we go. Now we have a reference of that particular guy or that particular row on which I want to do this delete action. Okay. Important is how do we delete that? Okay, it's really simple. You have to simply say context dot delete. Now you have to pass on an nsManage object, which can be served by the task as well. There we go. We have done that. Now just the deleting is not going to solve the problem, because we have to save the context as well, just like what we have done here. So in the add view task, we can see that this is how we save the context. So let's just do that in the view controller. So I'll copy this and paste that here, and we're gonna say save context. Okay, save is done, no big deal. Okay, but when we have actually saved the context, we want to actually fetch the data again, and we want to reload the table so that it just appears out there, because the view is not going to be loaded again when we do the swipe action out there. Okay, so how we can do that? It's really simple. We can just reload the data, and we can do something like this. Let's just say tasks, this guy, and task is gonna simply say context dot fetch, and it's gonna simply fetch from task dot fetch request. Okay, this is good, but again, this is gonna pop a try catch error out things out there. But what I can do is simply can copy this from somewhere where I've already done this. So there we go. Okay, there we go. We can just copy this entire thing, and I can place this in place of that. Okay, this looks good. Now, regardless of anything, when the delete action is being done, I just want to get out here. I think this guy is from, I have no idea where it is from. So I can just go out here, and I can simply say that table view should reload the data. Is it good? I think it's good. So let's just build that. What is happening here? Build succeed. So what we are doing here is simply we are looking for a style that is delete. If somebody swipes, we have created a context. We have reference to the point or to the row where we want to delete the things. Thankfully, to the index path.row, which has done the things for us. Then we want to just delete the task. And just for the user perspective, we want to delete that and update the things as quickly as possible. So what we are doing is we are simply trying to update the tasks, the array, into simply to fetch the new data out there, and we want to reload the data. Pretty simple. Let's just run this. Build succeed. Always like this, build succeed, you know. And ta-da! Come on. You can do that. Come on, load up. Where are you running? Here we are. Okay, so I don't like this guy, so let's just swipe and delete this, and there we go, it's gone. We haven't actually got the animation, but we can leave that someday for someday. Let's just delete this. There we go. Let's just add this, and I can simply say not like that, or maybe say done with to do app. It's important, yes, and the task. And now I can say I've done the to-do list app, and I can swap that, and I can delete that. That's good. But there is one problem, and I would simply say that all of you please try that. Now if I just add the task, it just adds it. Now it's not there, but let me see what happens when I simply say hello. There is an empty row out there, and this is the row. It's important, that's why it's there. But if I just turn it off and just don't write anything, it's gonna simply just have an empty row out there. And if I just now say T and add the task, there we go, an empty row, because we haven't actually checked the if let out there, and this is making a problem. But again, no big deal, we can solve that maybe someday out in the future. Now, if you like the video, please make sure that you hit the like button, comment down below. Your motivation is always required for me to make more these videos. iOS is so much fun for me and I always like to share more videos with you. So do thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.